Hello, class of 2023. You look amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah, for those wonderful remarks. Very moving. And some of you may know that we have a little bit of a connection, Sarah and I. And it was actually one of the last instructions my own mother gave me a long time ago was make sure that Sarah Bloomfield gets an honorary degree from Williams College. And I always listen to my mother, so thank you, Mom. So some of you may have seen a recent essay in the New York Times by the writer Margaret Rankle. It was adapted from her own baccalaureate remarks to the graduates of Swanee, the University of the South. And her speech was uniquely hers, but I want to build on a point that got me thinking when I read it. She said, and I'm quoting her here, "Not counting uncooperative politicians and partisan media figures, most people are sincerely trying their best to get along. If you talk to them, they will listen. If you listen, they will talk to you. Most people are good. Remind yourself that most people are good." She repeated the idea several times throughout her speech, almost like a mantra. Remember, she wrote again and again, people are good. People are good. There was a lot I really loved about her speech, and actually I would urge you to look it up if you have a chance after this. But I have to admit, it also left me a little bit skeptical. Are people really good? Can we assume that most of those with whom we interact are moral actors, have our best interests at heart, are as supportive, kind, and helpful as they could be? Is that something I could say with confidence to Williams students as they embarked on their own post-college journey at their own baccalaureate with any confidence, as Rankle said to her roomful of graduates? Are people good? In fact, my family history, my life experience, and my scholarly work has suggested that people are not always good. I'm sure you can think of your own examples. And yet, I still find something quite appealing and helpful in Rankle's formulation. And I thought a lot about trying to figure out what it was that resonated and what I wanted to share. So my own version's a little different and goes a little more like this. While people might not always be good, pretty much everyone you meet is being the very best person they can possibly be in that particular moment. Now that might sound a little silly, but bear with me. It's actually a pretty profound idea. Seriously, stick with me. We may not all be good, but we're all doing the very best that we can. So just sit with that a moment. We're all doing the very best we can at every moment. Imagine if you really believed that. Just imagine for a moment that you believed that we were all doing the very best that we can in any particular moment. As you stream Netflix when you should be writing a paper, or take a fourth helping when you're already full, or break a promise, or judge a friend, or fail a test, you are being the very best you can possibly be in that moment. Put differently, I don't know if people are good, but people are people. We are complicated. Stick with me. We are complicated. Sometimes we are not kind, or thoughtful, or generous, or energized. But what if we assume that each one of us is doing the very best that we can, and that we are perfect, even if we are flawed? Now, that doesn't mean we can't disagree. Each of you needs to decide to develop your own beliefs about what's right and just and good and fight for it. And when you do, you will have adversaries who make you angry and who you think are wrong, and perhaps who you think are not good people. But when you do, it helps to remember that your adversary is as human as you are, perfect, even if flawed. So here's a little vignette from my own life to illustrate my point. So most days I'm moving through a stream of meetings and Zoom calls, and in the rare few moments I'm pecking away at email or maybe gulping down some lunch, It's not pretty what college presidents eat in the rush, from zipping from thing to thing in any given day. But anyway, at some point in my typical day, someone's going to say or do something that I find painful or aggressive. Can you relate? It's a very human experience. It's not just a presidential thing. Might be worse for me, but maybe someone told me what I should have done in a particular situation. Maybe they think what I did was wrong. Maybe they judged me. Or maybe they misjudged me in some way. Maybe they even called me a name or insulted me. It happens. Okay, that's it for lunch. Down goes the fork, up goes my blood pressure. But what I think Margaret Rankel was trying to teach is that it's important to pause in those moments and remember that your interlocutor is just another human being. Maybe they're not being their best self, and maybe that can be a reminder that sometimes you, too, are not your best self, that both of you are human. With that insight, you realize you have a choice about how you're going to respond. You don't have to tense up for a fight or flight. You don't have to hit reply and bang out an angry retort. And if you take one thing from my charge to you today, never write an email when you're angry. Ever. It's the best advice you're ever going to get from me. Never. It's a terrible idea. I've learned from experience. You can recognize that even if you disagree, you share some fundamental essence that links you with that other person, and that like you, they are a work in progress. You might disagree with them, or think they don't have all the correct information, or wish their approach had been more temperate, or kinder, or more generous. But you don't have to dehumanize them. And more importantly, you don't have to become what that other person has made you out to be. So perhaps rather than saying that people are fundamentally good, we can recognize that we are all works in progress and that we have a choice about how we respond to those around us. As Sarah talked about when talking about the Holocaust, I was reminded of other great thinkers who came out of that experience. She mentioned a few of them. I'm reflecting on the work of Viktor Frankl. Frankl was a psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor. And among other theories, he argued that humans always have freedom of choice, even in moments of great suffering. For him, that freedom was a source of meaning and peace, even in the worst of circumstances. And you can imagine the power of such a theory coming from someone who survived Auschwitz, the power to find meaning, even in moments of great suffering. So if I have a lesson to offer you today, it's that you too have a choice, and that one of the biggest determinants in your well-being is how you respond to all the things coming at you every day. You can imagine how long I would have lasted if I responded defensively or with anger every time someone criticized me or challenged my point of view. I doubt I'd be here still. I'd probably be curled up in a fetal position somewhere at the moment. But today I'd like to remind you that you too have a choice. You can learn how to forgive yourself for what you believe to be your own shortcomings, that fourth piece of pizza someday when you weren't your nicest self to a friend. And you can do the same for those with whom you're struggling. Peace lies therein. So coming out of your 4 years of Williams and the education and life you've had here, you've had the intelligence and the analytic tools and a lot of great experiences that you can draw on. And so my best advice involves a return to where I started these remarks. Recognize the shared humanity in all of us. If something or someone is coming at you, try to remember that you too have taken the low road sometimes. It happens. Take a breath. When you act, be generous. Demonstrate grace. Far more often than not, you will be surprised by the response. You will be rewarded with mutual respect, respect that I want for you and that you absolutely deserve. And remember that each of us is who we are, no more and no less. And we're awfully fortunate to be so, and to live among others who are works in progress and wonderful just like ourselves. So remember that you have you as you go through that journey, and you are a beautiful perfect, if flawed, human being, and that you're on the road with many others like you, many of whom you've met here and who you will have for your life. It's one of the great gifts of Williams. Your education, I hope, is also one of the great gifts of Williams, but the people sitting around you and next to you is really one of the key things you're going to take with you from this place. It's a bond among Williams people that's almost unequaled in strength. I see it over and over and over again at reunions next week when we celebrate with folks decades out. That's what they take from this place. So reach out to each other, take care of each other, love each other in all of your beautiful humanity, and take this idea forward and live your best life as a member of two communities, Williams and the world. Have a wonderful day tomorrow, and congratulations.